My name is Azhar Niaz. I hold a master's degree in psychology from the University of Karachi. My professional journey spans more than 45 years in the fields of media production and teaching, during which I had the privilege to serve at Radio Pakistan and Pakistan Television, PTV. Currently, I am teaching media psychology to BS students at Rifa International University. With my background in both psychology and media, I strive to connect theoretical knowledge with real-world applications. To make learning more engaging and accessible, I have also experimented with producing my lectures in the form of AI-based conversations. I believe this innovative approach will not only help my students, but also provide a refreshing and enjoyable learning experience for anyone interested in psychology and media.
You know, we often go through life thinking we've got a decent handle on why people do things, ourselves included. But what if there's this whole scientific layer underneath all that? A way of understanding that, well, offers genuinely surprising insights into how our minds work.
That's exactly it. That's what we're diving into today, the fascinating and frankly huge world of psychology.
Okay.
And our goal here is really to cut through some of the maybe common ideas, the misconceptions, and give you a solid foundation. You know, what is psychology really? How vast is it? What are some of the most, well, intriguing parts?
Right.
We've pulled this from a pretty comprehensive text on the subject, aiming to find those surprising facts and practical ways of looking at things. Hopefully it gives you a new lens.
I like that. Before we even get into the modern stuff, I always find the origins interesting.
Right.
Where does the word psychology actually come from? Does that tell us anything?
Oh, absolutely. It's ancient Greek. Comes from psyche, which originally meant something like soul or mind, and logos, meaning study or reason, soul or mind.
Okay.
So yeah, right from the start, it was framed as this deep, reasoned look into the human mind, what makes us tick. It's always been bigger than just, say, fixing problems.
Okay, right. So let's unpack this modern understanding then. Because when most of us hear psychology, I think, yeah, we jump to therapy couches, maybe dream analysis.
Sure, common associations.
But the source we're using, it gives this much broader scientific definition. It says psychology is the scientific study of behavior and mental processes and the biological, social, and cultural factors that influence them.
Yeah.
That sounds comprehensive. What's key there?
Well, what's really fascinating is how that definition immediately pushes us beyond just therapy. It highlights three core pieces, which are crucial to get the field's real breadth.
Okay.
First, behavior. Simple enough, anything observable, actions we can actually see.
Right.
Second, mental processes. Now, this is the internal stuff, thoughts, memories, feelings, how we perceive things. Motivation, harder to see directly, obviously, but they drive the behavior.
The engine, you said.
Exactly. And then, critically, it adds contextual factors. This is huge. I mean, psychology acknowledges that our biology, our social circles, our whole culture, they all fundamentally shape both our actions and our inner thoughts and feelings. We don't exist in a bubble, basically. Psychology gets that.
So it's not just what's inside my head, but how my head interacts with, well, everything else. That feels enormous, though. How do psychologists even start to map out something that vast?
Yeah, it is vast. And if you connect that back to the definition, you see why. These different areas, these branches, they reflect just how multifaceted we are.
Okay.
So psychologists look at us through these different lenses, these specializations. Each one gives a different layer of insight.
So what are some of the big ones?
Yeah.
The foundational areas.
Well, we can start with a few core ones. You've got biological psychology, sometimes called neuroscience, or physiological psychology. This is really about the physical stuff. Brain, nerves, hormones, genetics, and how they directly link to how we act and think.
The hardware, almost.
Kind of, yeah. Then there's cognitive psychology. This is all about our mental architecture, you know, how we learn, remember things, think, use language, solve problems, the software, maybe.
Okay, keeping the analogy going.
And developmental psychology. That's the study of change across our whole lives, how we grow, adapt, change from, well, infancy right through to old age, the whole journey.
And our source pulls out one part of that developmental journey for a closer look. Child psychology. Why focus specifically on that?
Well, it gets singled out because those early years are just so incredibly formative. Child psychology zooms in on the unique psychological growth and also the challenges that infants, children, and teenagers face.
Makes sense.
It really digs into their emotional development, their thinking, their social skills. Think about things like attachment theory, how kids form bonds and the lifelong impact of that, or understanding learning difficulties or childhood anxiety, even how different parenting styles shape outcomes. It covers a lot.
So what does that mean for us then?
Yeah.
As parents, maybe, or even just adults thinking back on how we grew up, what's the practical takeaway?
Well, understanding these early stages, it's not just about helping kids thrive now. It also gives us pretty powerful clues about ourselves as adults.
How so?
How our own early experiences might still be influencing our relationships now, or how we cope with stress, maybe even our basic view of the world. It's about understanding the roots of who we are today and maybe building resilience from that understanding.
That's really interesting. Okay, let's shift gears slightly, maybe to the area people most associate with psychology. Clinical psychology, this is where the public interacts a lot, right? Therapy and so on.
Absolutely. Yeah, clinical psychology is definitely one of the biggest, most recognized fields. Its main focus is diagnosing and treating mental, emotional, and behavioral disorders.
And how do they do that?
They use a range of methods, evidence-based ones like psychotherapy, talk therapy, counseling, psychological testing, and assessment.
And it covers a wide range.
Oh, incredibly wide. Everything from, everyday struggles like mild stress or depression, which affect way more people than we sometimes think, all the way to severe conditions like, say, schizophrenia.
Right.
And you'll find clinical psychologists working in lots of places: mental health clinics, hospitals, private practices, rehab centers.
Oh, okay.
And just as a quick note, while it overlaps, there's also counseling psychology, which often focuses a bit more on helping people navigate everyday life adjustments and transitions, maybe less severe issues.
Got it. Okay, so from that very established field, our source points to something much newer but apparently booming. Media psychology, that feels incredibly relevant right now.
It really is. It's a fascinating area and growing fast, precisely because we're all so immersed in media and tech these days.
So what does it actually study?
Essentially, it looks at how media, all kinds, from TV and movies to social media and video games and technology, affect us. Our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors.
How so? Like what specifically?
Well, it explores things like how social media shapes our identity or affects our social interactions, how media influences attitudes and cultural norms, big modern issues too, like digital well-being or the psychology behind why some media becomes addictive.
Can you give us a sort of concrete example, something that shows how it offers surprising insights?
Sure. Think about something like interface design on an app or website. Media psychologists might study how specific notification sounds or even the color of a button can trigger, say, a dopamine response in our brains.
Okay.
Which makes the platform more engaging, right? Sometimes maybe too engaging, edging towards addiction. Or another example, how seeing constantly curated, perfect-looking lives on social media impacts self-esteem, particularly for younger people.
Right, the comparison trap.
Exactly. Media psychology tries to dissect those subtle psychological mechanisms that media uses for better or worse.
Wow, okay. That really brings it home. And that's just one of these specialized areas. To really get a sense of the scale here, let's maybe zoom out again and do a quick run through of some other vital areas our source mentions.
Yeah, absolutely. There are quite a few more worth noting. There's social psychology. Ever wonder why you might act differently in a group versus alone?
Mm-hmm.
Or why some ideas or trends just catch fire online? Social psychologists study that group influence, conformity, how our beliefs get shaped by others. It's fascinating.
Okay, who else?
Then you've got educational and school psychology. This isn't just about, learning styles. It's about understanding how people learn best and how we can design teaching methods and environments to really help people reach their potential all the way through life.
Practical.
Very. And industrial organizational psychology, or IO-Psych, that takes psychology into the workplace.
How?
Things like improving employee morale, making teams work better together, effective leadership, hiring practices, applying psychological principles to make organizations function better.
Okay, so work, school, social life.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, there's health psychology. This explores that powerful mind-body connection. How does stress affect your physical health? How can psychological approaches help people manage chronic illnesses or stick to treatment plans?
Right.
Forensic psychology. This links psychology to the legal system. Think about assessing if someone is competent to stand trial, understanding eyewitness memory, or developing rehabilitation programs for offenders.
Okay.
Environmental psychology. This looks at how our physical surroundings, the design of buildings, cities, access to nature, influences how we feel and behave.
Didn't even know that was a field.
It is. And sports psychology. Applying psychology to help athletes perform better, manage pressure, stay motivated, and maintain well-being.
That's a lot. So what does this all mean then, when you see them all laid out like that?
It means, I think, that psychology truly touches, pretty much every part of human life, often in ways we don't even consciously recognize. It really underscores that psychology is this incredibly broad science. It's definitely not just about mental illness or therapy, though that's a vital part.
Right.
It digs into everything, the biology, our thoughts, our social lives, how we grow, how we learn, how we're affected by our environment, by media.
So you have these classic fields like biological, cognitive, developmental, social.
Exactly. Plus these really important focused areas like child psychology, and obviously clinical psychology remains absolutely central for understanding and treating mental health challenges, which, is a spectrum we're all on somewhere.
And the newer fields like media psychology showing how it adapts.
Precisely. It's constantly evolving because, well, we're constantly evolving and interacting with new things.
So bringing it all together, these different branches, they give us a much deeper and I guess more practical picture of what it means to be human.
I think so. A picture of how complex, how adaptable, and how interconnected everything is. And, the thing is, the areas of psychology aren't really limited to just the ones we've listed here. Because, in a way, every single person, with their unique mix of thoughts, feelings, experiences, they're kind of another living branch of psychology themselves, just waiting to be understood.
That's a really powerful thought. So maybe the takeaway for everyone listening is the next time you're interacting with someone or even just thinking about why you did something.
Yeah.
How might knowing about all these different angles, these different branches of psychology actually change how you see that moment or even how you see yourself?